day, beautiful soul family, and welcome back to On Another Level. And it's like a hiring type of advertisement where they say only those who are serious need apply. And so that is my extension here. Only those who are serious about their walk need apply the information that will be talked about today. If it only applies for the serious mind. And so today, Divine Spirit was talking to me about spirit and matter. And so, and meditate upon it even the more. And then what I am moving forward to talk about is the spirit of the Antichrist. So there's a lot of talk. Okay, it's going to happen. But when is it going to happen? And Divine Spirit was letting me know, okay, so you set that intention, it's the idea, it's the thought, that's all in the spiritual plane. There are statements of as above, so below. And so the thing about it, beautiful soul family, is that we are currently in the spirit of the Antichrist. Now, how are we in the spirit of the Antichrist? You see, the thing about it is that we don't see the air that we breathe, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And a wonderful way to know that the air that we breathe exists is by looking in the mirror, because you are alive. If air did not exist, and a matter of fact, what if you said, I'm not going to breathe until I see it? None of us have said that. To that degree, we move by faith. In that way, as we're utilizing faith, we're inhaling and we're exhaling. But there are people who will try to mask that, who will even try to block your breathing. It is going on. It has been happening on a spiritual plane, and so it manifests in this physical plane, and we were really able to understand that in 2020. We were able to really see in 2020 what has been happening on the spiritual plane. And so what Divine Spirit is telling me is that we are in the spirit of the Antichrist. And how you determine that we are in the spirit of the Antichrist is morality. Morality has plummeted. And the strategy is to come against the morality of humanity. And it's not so much that it's one person going through these things, isms and schisms. It's about humanity being possessed with such a spirit. Now the interesting thing is that in order for you to embrace it, some aspects of you have to come under an energy. Whether it's a loving energy or it's a hateful energy. And we're talking about the spirit of the Antichrist. So let's go deep. What is the Antichrist? Now, Divine Spirit had called me to talk about Christ. Christ consciousness. Raising your consciousness of love. Of the fruits of the Spirit. But then there's the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is about coming against all of that. It comes against love. Comes against love, unconditional love, peace, healing, strength, confidence, self-esteem, honor, respect. All that is sacred. And it brings it forth as brought out. The world will mimic the earth, but in a distorted way. And so in the same like manner, it's governments and all of that is mimicking, its world is mimicking the kingdom of Divine Spirit, but it's done distortedly. And it starts spiritually. It does so by the means of influence. See, there are people who work so hard to get money, and then on top of that is working so hard to be an influence, and then on top of that it's about the power. And sadly enough, that's what we're seeing. Divine Spirit brought me to Revelation chapter 12. Here it says the woman, the child, and the dragon. Now also, I want to go to this thing that I saw. And it talks about the different aspects of the spirit of the Antichrist. Let me see. Of course. So there are different things that we see in reference to the Antichrist. We see the morality in advertisements, in movies. It seems like in terms of certain subject matters, the floodgate has opened. So it's not just about, oh, where is our rights? Really, we have to say, where is our rights? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I am open to respect everyone. But then now, the tables have turned. Now it's more like, can I watch a movie where that is not implemented? Can I watch an advertisement where that is not slammed in my face and in my children's face? Divine Spirit was showing me this, and I'm just going to read it in Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. A great sign appears in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in labor and agony as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven. Now, Divine Spirit is telling me about signs. The reason people aren't paying attention to the signs is because they're so distracted. They're looking down instead of looking up. They're distracted. They're not able to see. Because they're blinded by the visions of the world, what they see in the world. Divine Spirit says the world is the footsteps, the footstool. So the world is already at a lower state. And so when we're looking down and we're not looking up, really, Divine Spirit is also telling me it's about really who we're looking up to. Because you may look up to someone, but it's still considered low when you're not looking up to Divine Spirit. There was a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its heads were 7 crowns. Its tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in heaven and hurled them to the earth. And let's break that down a little bit, because this is what Divine Spirit was showing me. Okay, so here we have seven heads, 10 horns. On his head were 7 crowns. These people, these heads, they are given the recognition. Their recognition is they're able to be crowned. So when you think about the heads that do forth mockery, or they do so much, they create so much filth. So these 7 heads have horns. And based on the filth that they produce, they are crowned. You see a real king gets crowned not only to carry on the legacy, but they are crowned because they have been selected to carry on the spirit of righteousness, the spirit of goodness and greatness in their kingdom. Divine Spirit is telling me about misery loves company. You see, we only have one Heavenly Father and one Lord and Savior. You don't need 7. 7 is a holy number, however, but you don't need 7. Now see, the Divine Spirit is telling me that these 7 heads that have horns, they do so much filth. They fulfill quote unquote purpose, bloodshed. And there are it seems like who can do the most filth. We see this in music. We see this in advertisements. We see this in movies. And it's a competition of who can bring forth the most, who can get away with the most. To where society is not going to go in an uproar. And so that's what's happening. What can we get away with? Pushing the envelope. How far can we push the envelope? And it's about these heads with horns that work so hard to bring down morality. See, Christ was about raising consciousness, bringing forth truth. These heads are about bringing down the light, blinding people, keeping the truth hidden. Divine Spirit is saying, blotting it out even. And they put it in front of your face. So they make it a norm. Slowly but surely they make it a norm because it is planted subliminally. Now our subconscious plane picks it all up. And then before you know it, as it has planted the seed, then it continues to feed upon it. Or not feed upon it, but it continues to nourish it by repetition. And so then there comes a harvest. I did it before. I did a video about, we used to have people that interject, plant seeds of hope, of love, of peace. And all of that has stopped. And so they're planting seeds, but they're planting seeds of filth. What really triggered me to do this video, beautiful soul family, is when it says further. It says its tail swept, well, not really that, but let's talk about it. Where it says its tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in heaven and hurled them to earth. So, interesting enough, we have snakes. And you see the snake's head moving. Now, Divine Spirit is bringing me to the Karate Kid. Now, the newer Karate Kid is where they go to this temple, and the Karate Kid, he is looking at the snake, or he's looking at a lady looking at the snake. And the instructor was saying to the Karate Kid, or the kid, the child, who is watching who and who is in control. And so in this movie, it's saying that the woman was in control. And based on the subtleties of the woman, she was able to control the snake. But I tell you, in reality, it's the other way around. Divine Spirit was telling me that the head of the snake is bigger than the tail. And so people get so focused on what they can see without realizing that the snake's tail is doing a greater damage. So people get focused on the head. They get focused on what they can see that's in front of their face. But the snake's tail is wiping out 1/3 of the heavens. 1/3 of the angels in heaven. And so in the same like manner, you want to hide something, you put it in front of their face, but there's so much things going on behind the scenes. It wasn't the head of the snake that took down 1/3 of the angels. It was the tail. So they're looking and then being mesmerized. But it's the tail that wiped out 1/3 of the heavens. As you're being focused to the hand, what's the other hand doing? And the dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she did give birth, it might devour her child. And that's where we're at right now. Our children are being attacked. It wasn't so much, there's been pains, and those are going to happen in the midst of birthing. It's not only children, it's also your dreams and your aspirations, waiting for it to be birthed so that it can devour it. The Divine Spirit is showing me a dragon on top of the soil. And it brought forth so much pressure to prevent the breakthrough. But as there is a breakthrough, because no matter what, there will be a breakthrough, Satan is awaiting it to devour it. Divine Spirit is also telling me that that is what the weed does. So we have the soil that puts forth the pressure. But nothing can stop Divine Spirit, right? So the seed is strengthened. It awakens. Then it's developed. And it's strengthened. And it continues to grow because of endurance. But then there is that event. And there is that breakthrough. And what's so interesting is that weed that's on top is there waiting. Now the purpose of the weed won't be there unless there's growth taking place under the surface. And so the weed is there because it's trying to take away the sun and the water. Because it's the sun and the water that helps there to be growth. So weed is strategic. Much like this dragon is strategic. Strategically positions itself to be present as the woman is to give birth. Now usually who is there present when a mother is giving birth? We have friends and family. We have the world and its simpletons and its conditioned learnings waiting to devour the child, waiting to devour that new growth of your dreams and aspirations, waiting to devour that love that is finally budding to the surface. So when we see these different things taking place, we have to understand that we are in the spirit of the Antichrist. And it's about taking away the light and the water. The very things that the harvest needs to continue its growth. You see, the Antichrist is against growth. The Antichrist is against higher consciousness. And is waiting. See, the dragon, as brought out in the movie Cars 3, it was up. It was number 1. But it decided to strategically slow down to plant the weeds into her subconscious. Oh, but the voice of Lightning McQueen reminded her, he's afraid of you. You see, we have to say, why are certain things taking place? Why are our children? Why are certain things allowed to take place? Why are our children being attacked? Why are our dreams being attacked? Why are our imaginations being attacked? Why are our rights being attacked? And it's because of fear. And it strategically positioned itself because they know that they can't stop the process. They know that they can't stop the birthing. So they will position themselves. Here it says, so that when she did, so it's not going to stop. All these blockages and whatever, it slows it down, but it doesn't. Everything is allowed to happen. It's all strategic, but Divine Spirit is very strategic. Okay? Even more so, sees it. There's nothing that can pull a wool over Divine Spirit's eyes. Okay? So when she did give birth, because it will happen, it might devour. We got to look at the operative words. Might. It will try, but will not triumph. And it's about devouring, eating it up whole. snuffing it out. So when I think about devour, see, that is what, when I think about devour, that is what a snake does. It waits. It watches. Positions itself to devour in whole. Doesn't have hands, right? So it devours. Divine Spirit is telling me about the snake and how it hypnotizes and brings forth illusions to sway humanity, only to devour it whole. You see, what's so interesting is that the poison of a snake will paralyze its prey so that it doesn't move. Because if it doesn't bring forth its venom, then it will move. And then they won't be able to devour. And so the spirit of the Antichrist is more likened to like a venom, meant to paralyze and constrict so that you can be devoured. But when you utilize the word of God, when you understand that Yeshua has come and has died for us, paid that ransom, and was resurrected, when we glean off the truth, that is the antidote to the venom that has been dispersed out. That antidote is love. That antidote brings forth consciousness. It brings you conscious. It's like the venom will make you be unconscious and stagnant and paralyzed. And the paralyzed venom will bring forth different things that attacks your senses. And so therefore you're not moving. But Divine Spirit, by the means of Yeshua, gives us the opportunity to be awakened, to be healed, and to be awakened, and to move forward with purpose. You see, when you're moving forward, it's because you are going towards a destination. You're not scattered. You're moving forward with destiny. You have a destined location. You are moving, living, breathing with purpose. Even the air that we breathe has purpose. And so it's not about nibbling here and nibbling there. No, it's about completely devouring it. And so that takes some time. So the venom, which is likened to the spirit of the Antichrist, is sent out into humanity so that it can blind, so that it can bring forth muting, so that people won't really hear. You see, our senses are attacked. Our children are attacked. Our dreams and aspirations, our purpose is attacked. People have let go of purposes because it doesn't make them money. And so to a degree, it's like selling out. But when you look at the bigger picture and you understand my purpose is complementary to my blueprint. And in my life, I am to fulfill it. And so yes, we are in the spirit of the Antichrist. And it's about devouring new growth, newness, devouring the child. Also, it shows how so many strategic things have happened as we were children, even from birth. Here it says she gave birth to a son, a male who is going to rule again. So I did a video some time ago and I couldn't upload it. And I was trying to figure out why. I'm only telling the truth. And the thing about it, beautiful soul family, is because I guess I was talking on certain matters that were trying to be hidden. One of the things is that as you look in history, there are entitled rulers. There are entitled rulers who know about prophecy. And so for a very long time, again, they don't do anything new. And so for a very long time, they go according to prophecy because they're only allowed a certain amount of leg room. Okay? And the thing about it is that they are always attacking the chosen ones. The ones who are meant to rule. It reminded me of an angel who was measuring. And when you bring forth, when a contractor brings out the measuring tape, you know, okay, this contractor knows what they're doing. When someone starts measuring, it's because they're getting down to the truth. So there are those that are chosen who, you know, who comes to the truth. They don't guesstimate. They take out the ruler, they take out the measuring tape, and they get the facts. But there are rulers who are about illusions. All nations with an iron rod. Her child was caught up to God, to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God to be nourished there for 1,260 days. The one who deceives the whole world. Okay. For 1,260 days. And then it goes to dragon thrown out of heaven. And that is the one who deceives the whole world. You see, it's deception. It's illusions. It's fears. Because the truth is that it has no power or authority. This really isn't a fake it until you make it, because it's already been completed. What really got me is that she gave birth, and it seeked out to devour the child. It was waiting patiently, placing itself in position. And it's about chess. You utilize chess. It's not about the first move that you make. Actually, that first move that you make with the pawn is really in connection already to the next 5 moves that you're going to be using. It's combinations. And so it's strategic as to which pawn you're choosing to move because of how you will be able to position the other pieces, such as the knight, the bishop. And the thing about it is that the dragon stood in front of the woman. So interesting, because in that Karate Kid movie, the woman was standing in front of the snake who was about to give birth. So that when she did give birth, now listen to here, remember what I was saying, the weed positions itself when there is about to be new growth or a breakthrough. The weed wouldn't be there if there was no growth taking place within the soils of the earth. That once it goes through its pressures and yes, its growth and determination and vigor, and it busts through the soil, that weed that has been on top of the soil. You see, because the weed is trying, even though the weed doesn't need it, it brings forth a competition. See, from the outlook of the harvest that is in the soils of the earth, it doesn't see the weed. The weed has no roots. It doesn't take roots. And so it's on top to cover, to try to bring forth a blockage of the sun and compete with water. Okay? That's what a weed does. And then as the new growth is breaking through, it tries to snuff it out. But from the bottom part, it doesn't see that taking place. It's all about the connection, the energetic connection, and try to, it's like whenever you try to, move forward to being abundant, to being nourished, then that weed tries to take away that water. That's the sad part about it. Until you break through and then you realize, well, this is weed here. But unbeknownst to the harvest that was beneath the surface, that is what was bringing forth a blockage, trying to get in the way of that connection. And so that's likened to the spirit of the Antichrist. They're trying to position it and bring forth that disconnection because of the light. The sun, the loving sun's energy helps to bring it upwards. You see, a flower, when it's down, it's wilted. But when it's upwards, facing the sun, it blossoms. And so that's, the weed positions itself so that way it can come against that. Not just when it busts through the surface, but as it's growing in the soils of the earth. Much like this dragon positioned itself right in front of the woman as the baby was growing, steadily trying to block things, prevent things from taking place so that it can devour the child. So beautiful soul family, this is what I've got in reference to the spirit of the Antichrist. There's so much more, but I'm just speaking on what Divine Spirit has moved me to speak on. Have a beautiful and wonderful day. Namaste.